Hi, my name is Phyllis Kaplowitz, Executive Chef at Baker's Best, and today we're going to make moussaka. This is one of my favorite recipes. It's definitely a comfort Greek food, but it's a labor of love, and there's a lot of components in it, so let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is prep our eggplant. And the reason being is we're going to salt it to take some of the bitterness out of it, and it needs to sit for about 15 minutes. So what I'm doing here is I'm just trimming the ends off the eggplant. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take some of these strips of skin off the eggplant. And this will be better when we assemble the eggplant and layer it so you won't get big bites of skin in your casserole. And then I'm just going to take the eggplant and slice it into about a 1/2-inch plank. And if you feel uncomfortable holding the eggplant upright, you can rest it on its side. And then we're going to take our eggplant and we're going to lay it on a sheet pan. Usually I like to have it lined with paper towels so it will absorb a lot of that liquid coming out of it. And we're going to salt it pretty heavily. And the reason why we're doing this again is we want to get some of the moisture out and bitterness to it. And don't worry about the salt because what we're going to do after is wash it. Flip it on both sides. So now I'm going to finish the second eggplant to set aside for about 15-20 minutes so I can wash, pat, and dry it. Okay, great. So now we had our eggplant sitting for about 15 to 20 minutes. I have my oven preheated at 350. I've washed and dried my eggplant at this point. So what I'm going to do is get my potatoes started. And I have a pot here with salted water, cold water, and I like to use Yukon Gold potatoes. So I'm going to get those in the pot with the skins on at this point and let them cook for about 30 minutes until they're just kind of slightly cooked through, but still a bit firm because we're going to slice those up. So over here with my eggplant, what I want to do now is I'm going to brush it liberally with some light olive oil on both sides. And I have some seasoning mix that I've made with kosher salt, fresh cracked pepper, and some garlic powder. And you could basically use anything you want in this, but I like a little extra flavor in my dish. So now I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of these and get them in the oven for about 15-20 minutes. So next we're going to make our meat base for our moussaka, and what I have here is some ground beef. You can use beef or lamb. I like them both, and I'm going to get a little bit of oil in my pan and just heat that up, and I'm going to add my meat to it. And what I want to do here is just brown my beef while stirring it occasionally, get it broken up nicely. And then once my meat is browned, I'm going to take it over and strain some of the fat out of it just so my casserole is not greasy, and then return it back to the pan. So now we've cooked our meat and we've strained the grease out of it. So what I'm going to do is I want to get everything back in the pan together. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a little bit more oil to my pan, and I'm going to saute my onions. And I'd like to get them nice and caramelized because nobody likes a big chunk of raw onion. So we're going to cook this for about 5 to 10 minutes until we get some nice color on it, and then we'll add our other ingredients. Okay, so our onions have cooked here for about 5-10 minutes. They have a nice caramelization on them and translucent. And what I'm going to do now is basically add the rest of my ingredients to make the meat base of my casserole. So I have my strained ground beef, and then I have some tomato sauce, some red wine, some fresh diced tomatoes, and if you're feeling lazy, you can of course use the canned ones. We have some fresh chopped garlic, some fresh oregano. I always try to use fresh herbs whenever I can, but again, you can use dry oregano if you would like, just half the amount of the recipe. And then we're going to throw a cinnamon stick in, and I like to use some fresh grated nutmeg in it. And we'll season with a bit of salt and pepper. And we just want to stir all it up. Get everything combined in there. Okay, so now all of my ingredients are in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let it cook for about 15-20 minutes covered until my mixture reduces quite a bit. The liquid comes out of it. It gets nice and thick and a beautiful dark red color. So I'm going to get started here by making the milk base of the bechamel. And what I want to do is on the stove, get some milk and put it in a pot. And then I'm going to make something called an onion peak. And what it is basically you take a half of an onion, a bay leaf, and some cloves, and you just prick or poke the bay leaf through with the cloves. So the onion is studded. And I'm going to add this to the milk. And what this will do is it'll just give the sauce a whole nother level of flavor with the bay leaf and the clove and the onion in it. So then in a separate pot, I'm going to start my roux. And what I want to do here is add my butter and flour. And I'm going to get my butter in the pot. And I want the butter to melt down for a bit. And then what we want to do is add our flour and whisk the butter mixture as we're adding our flour. And what we would like to see is the flour and the butter to kind of marry each other and look like wet sand. And get that all incorporated in the pot. And then what we want to do is we just want to let that cook for maybe about a minute just to try to get some of that flour taste out of it. Okay, so now our milk has come to a scald, and what I've done is I've just turned the heat off on it because I don't want it to burn at this point, and I'm going to remove this onion, bay leaf, and clove, and just kind of set that aside. So you don't want to get that in your sauce. If it happens to fall apart during the process of cooking it, you might want to just strain that milk so you don't get any of those pieces in your finished product. So now over here I have my roux going. And what I want to do is add my milk mixture to my roux to make my bechamel. And because we're kind of combining unlike ingredients, we're just going to do this a ladle at a time. And what this will prevent is lumps. So I'm going to get a little ladle of that milk mixture in there and whisk it up well. And then I'm going to slowly add the rest of my mixture. Now this bechamel is a little thicker than other sauces because we're making a custard out of it. I'm going to whisk that up. And then after a while that I've had a few ladles in it, I can incorporate the rest of my milk mixture into my roux. And I just want to whisk that up really well. Get everything to come together. So great, now I have my roux and my milk mixture incorporated here. And what I want to do is let this cook for about 5 minutes or until the bechamel starts to come up to a boil. I'm going to keep a careful eye on this because it can burn very easily and stir it occasionally. Okay, so now our bechamel has come to a slight boil, and I'm just going to add some seasoning to it because it's pretty bland in flavor right now. So I'm going to add a pinch of salt and a little white pepper, and that'll give it a little bit of heat. And I'm going to add a little fresh grated nutmeg to it. And that'll give it some nice flavor. And then I'm going to remove this sauce from the heat and let it sit probably for a few minutes and add my cheese and egg to the sauce to fortify it and make the sauce even thicker. Okay, so my sauce has cooled down a little bit, and over here now I have some eggs and some mozzarella cheese. And I'm just going to whisk these eggs up a little bit. And I want to add this to my sauce because it's going to be that thick, rich topping that's going to go on top of my moussaka. And what the eggs and the cheese will do is it will fortify the sauce and make it thicker. So first I'm going to add that mozzarella in stages. And just whisk that up till it's all incorporated in there. And you just want that mozzarella to melt a bit. And then I'm just going to slowly add the egg to my bechamel, whisking as I add it into it because I don't want the eggs to scramble or overcook. All right, everything's combined. We have our components ready, and we're going to go ahead and assemble our casserole. Okay, so it's been a long time coming, but now we're finally going to assemble our moussaka here, and we have our meat mixture complete. And what you just want to make sure to do when you take that off the stove is remove that cinnamon stick, because nobody wants to get that. And we're going to add our parsley after it's cooled off a little bit and mix that up. So now we have our potatoes that have been cooked and peeled and sliced. We have our eggplant that's roasted. We have our meat mixture, and we have our cheesy, yummy bechamel. And what we're going to do is assemble everything into our casserole dish. So the first layer I like to put in is a layer of eggplant. And I'm just going to put a thin layer in on the bottom of the dish. And what I'll try and do also with my eggplant, because I'm going to end up topping the casserole dish with it, is I'll save some of the nicer pieces to top my casserole with. And if you want to, you can trim to fit the eggplant into the dish using your fingers or slicing it, just so you have a nice even layer in there. And then next, I'm going to put my meat mixture in. And again, I just want to put a nice even layer, all of my mixture at once. And I just want to make sure to put an even amount, spread it out evenly throughout the dish. Next, I'm going to put my potato layer in. And again, you just want to evenly kind of layer those potatoes in the dish. This way, when your casserole is done and you're serving it to your family or your guests, everybody gets a nice bite of the eggplant and the meat mixture and the potato and the custard. And then I'm going to follow up again with another layer of eggplant. I like doing this because I kind of give the casserole a base and then a top, and I love eggplant. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to top my dish with my yummy cheesy bechamel sauce. And I'm going to just kind of ladle that evenly over the top. Again, just trying to make sure that I have an even layer of sauce. And if you see the sauce pour into the casserole, that's no problem. It just adds some extra flavor to it. All right, we have our casserole assembled, and we're going to get it into our preheated oven at 350 degrees for about 40 minutes on a sheet pan uncovered. Okay, so here we have our moussaka, and after you get it out of the oven, you're more than welcome to serve it immediately. You could also make this dish in components ahead of time and assemble it before your party or for your family, or you can make it and let it rest and reheat it again. I have a slice here to show you with all the beautiful layers in it. You see the eggplant and the meat and the potato and the yummy bechamel sauce on top. And I love serving this with a nice cold salad, like a Greek salad. So I hope you enjoy, and thank you very much.